So last afternoon I was speaking about the first stages of anapanasati, just to be able to be aware of your body, Vedana, and a little bit of the mind, the chitta, especially what I just call peaceometer. In other words, you can be mindful just of how ready you are to be able to watch your breathing. Most people's biggest hindrance to watching the breath is their thoughts. We get lost in our thinking, and there are several antidotes to that, which obviously meditating myself and teaching others, you find what works and what does not work. One of the things which does not work is when your mind wanders off, keep on bringing it back. And it wanders off again, and you bring it back again. And it wanders off again, and you bring it back again. And you can spend years doing that and getting very frustrated. Every time it wanders off, you bring it back. And instead of just keep bringing it back, the Buddha's teachings always wanted us to investigate the causes. Why does your mind wander off? Instead of just bringing it back again and hoping that that way it won't wander off again, instead we find out why. So many similes I have developed. And one of those similes is, and it just come to me now because I heard the bird outside, is a person who keeps a bird in a cage in their house or just outside their house. And they always keep the door of the cage locked, so the bird can't fly anywhere. And one day it must happen just by chance that they leave the cage door unlocked or open, and the bird takes its chance and flies away and will never come back, because for the bird, the cage is a prison. And another person has a bird in their house in a cage, but they keep the cage door open so the bird can come and go as it wishes. But inside the cage they put delicious food, sweet pure water, and maybe even toys for the bird to play with. And they've got a very nice soft bed where the bird, or perch where the bird can sleep at night comfortably. And it's a 5-star cage, which means that the bird doesn't want to fly off. It stays in that cage because it's happy and peaceful. And I'm sure that you have understood the simile already. If your mind is an uncomfortable place, if you are very negative, have no happiness, no peace, then it is like your mind will want to fly off anywhere. It will want to go and look at useless plans for the future. All of these ideas of what you're going to do next. As I mentioned yesterday, I've been a monk over 42 years now. When I first became a monk, I never ever planned to be sitting in Bandarawela giving a talk to you guys and girls, you monks and nuns. This was not part of my plan. It was not part of my plan to go and give these huge talks to lay people like in BMICH, or even worse in places like Indonesia, where after the talk I have to sit on my seat and wait for 2 hours while people come to have their book signed and have a photograph, signing books, photograph, signing book, photograph, signing book, photograph. And I never planned to do that. Nevertheless, it makes many people happy and arouses their faith, so it's a worthwhile thing to do. So much of what I expected in life never turned out. It is just emphasizing what a waste of time planning the future is. So, we sometimes wander off into the future even though we know it is useless, simply because we want to escape the present moment. Or we start lingering on the past, all those things which you thought happened but did not happen. The past, what you remember, is unreliable. In West, psychologists have done many, many, many experiments to prove that your memory is unfaithful to the truth, but is more faithful to what you wanted to have happened. Your memory is untrustworthy. And the way that memory works, unless it's memory from samadhi, from deep stillness, ordinary memory works like this. When I was a young child at school, we used to play a game, and this is not anything to do with China, but we used to call it Chinese whispers. And we would all line up, maybe 10, 20, 30 children in a line. And the teacher would whisper something into the first child's ear. And they would have to tell the second child, who would tell the third child, who would tell the fourth child. So the words would go down the line of maybe 20 or 30 children. And when it got to the last child, the message was totally different to the one which was first said. Now that was just a game we played as children, but this actually happened in the British Army during the First World War, because the way the army gives instructions, gives orders, is from the top down to the people who are actually doing the fighting. So, a big general told his lieutenant general the order, send reinforcements, we are going to advance. This may be difficult to translate into Sinhala, but I think with a bit of wisdom you may be able to translate something similar. Send reinforcements, we're going to advance. He told that to the lieutenant general, who told it to the colonel, who told it to the major, who told it to the captain, who told it to the lieutenant, who told it to the sergeant, who told it to the corporal, who told it to the ordinary privates, the ones who were actually doing the soldiering. But every time it went down, the message changed slightly. And so instead of the message, send reinforcements, we are going to advance, what the people on the front line heard was send 3 and 4 pence, which was a British currency at the time, 3 shillings and 4 pennies, 3 and 4 pence. We are going to a dance. Totally different to the orders said reinforcements, we're going to advance. So this is what happens to our memory also. Every time we remember something, we remember the last time we remembered it. So our memory works like a chain of memories, which is why it is uncertain, unreliable, and very often as different from what actually happened as send reinforcements, we're going to advance, is different than send 3 and 4 pence, we're going to advance. Similar in the sound, but very different in the meaning. That's how human memory works. And I say that so you don't have to trust and be interested in your memory of the past. It is unreliable. So why do we actually do that? Why do we bother with trying to remember the past? Again, it is just ways we can escape from the present moment, from reality. So one of the reasons why we cannot even stay in the present moment and watch our breath is, as I mentioned last night, we don't have the right way of being with the breath. We always want to control it, just like we put the bird in a cage. The first opportunity, it flies away. So instead of putting the bird in the cage with the door locked, we have the door open. The bird can go whenever it wants, but it is such a wonderful cage that it does not want to go. This is where you can understand the importance of kindness and compassion. There was a lady from Singapore staying in my temple in Perth on a retreat. And when she told me that she had trouble with the mind wandering off, never being able to stay with the breathing, I told her a story of one of my disciples in Perth, a young Buddhist, a mother, Caucasian. And she was a very wise woman, because when her son, maybe 5 or 6 years of age, got very upset with his mother, because his mother was telling him to do this and do that, the little 6-year-old boy said, "Mummy, I do not love you anymore, I'm leaving home." Only 6 years of age. Now the mother, instead of punishing the boy or shouting at him, instead said to her little boy, "What a wonderful idea. I will help you pack." So the mother and the 6-year-old son went into the bedroom, where they took a little suitcase, and she packed his important things for life. A Spider-Man suit, a teddy bear, favorite pajamas, what a 6-year-old thinks is the necessities for life. And the mother said, "Before you go, I will give you some lunch to take with you." So she made her son his favorite sandwich, put it in a brown paper bag, and then waved her son off at the front door of their house. "Bye-bye, son. Have a wonderful life. Don't forget to write or to visit from time to time." So the 6-year-old boy, carrying a suitcase in one hand and a brown paper bag with sandwiches in the other hand, walked off into his life. If you know the sort of houses they have in Australia, there's usually enough land, because we've got so much land in Australia. There are more kangaroos than there are people, but most of the land only kangaroos can live on. So there he walked to the end of a path, and where there was the gate, and on the other side of the gate was the road, and he turned left of the gate, walked down the street into his life. He was only 6 years of age. He maybe got 100 meters, maybe 150 meters along that road when he started to get homesick. He started to miss his mother and his bed and all the toys. So he turned around and he walked back, opened the gate, walked down the path, and his mother had not moved from the door. She knew he would come back. And she gave him a hug, "Welcome home, darling." And then the problem was solved. And before I could explain the meaning of that story to this young Singaporean girl, she was laughing and being very disrespectful. She was actually holding her tummy, laughing hysterically, and rolling around on the floor in front of me. And I had to ask her, why? And she said, Ajahn Brahm, you would not believe this, but almost, not quite the same, almost the same happened to me when I was about that age. I also had a big argument with my mother. And I also said, I want to leave home. And the mother said, yes, a very good idea. And she helped me pack my bag. The only difference was my mother never made me any lunch. Instead, she gave me 20 Singapore dollars and said, buy your own lunch, which is very Singaporean. And so she said, I was carrying my bag and my $20 for my lunch and not living in a house like Australia, living in an apartment. So my mother just took me to the elevator, to the lift. I went inside, pressed the ground floor. My mother said, bye-bye, darling, have a wonderful life. And she said, by the time I got down to the ground floor, I was already homesick, 6 years of age. And I missed my mother and my toys and my father and my brothers so much that I pressed the number of the floor where I lived and I went straight back up again. The lift was like the yo-yo, went down and went straight back up. And when the doors opened to the floor where I lived, my mother was waiting there for me. Welcome home, darling. She also knew that I would not get far. And the reason I tell that story, that is like your mind wandering off. Sometimes it is as like your mind thinks, I can't stand you any longer. You're always telling me to sit down, to be quiet, to watch my breath, to scan my body, to do this and do that. I've had enough with you, monk. None. I'm going. Bye-bye. So the wonderful thing to do is to pack your mind's bags, give it $20 or a sandwich or something, say, bye-bye mind, have a wonderful time wherever you're going. If you're kind to your mind, you have this beautiful loving kindness, Maitri, you will find your mind won't go far. It will come back again very quickly, and it will stay with you. If your cage is unlocked door, beautiful food, very comfortable and pleasant, the mind will always come back. That is why the kindness is so important for stillness. It means that your mind is a very happy place to be, and your mind likes to stay there. So, this is the preparation. So once you have a happy mind, just being in this, see the peaceometer, really calm, quiet, then you can do one of two things. You can either invite the breath in, and I always like the word invite the breath in, rather than going to grab it and pulling it inside your mind. And when you give it an invitation, it's almost like you're respecting your breath. It's just a way of looking which solves a lot of the problems. If you try and control your breath, come in and stay. If you go anywhere, I'm going to pull you back, I'm going to pull you back. You'll find you cannot stay with the breath very long unless with a lot of force, which means you get very tense and tight. If you do use force in meditation, really strong force, you can get so far. You can get to nimitta stage, really strong lights. But you cannot make that last stage to go into jhanas. You're doing too much. You're controlling. You are far too present in the process of meditation. You are doing the meditation. One of the most famous and one of my favorite sayings from the Visuddhimagga is, the path is, but no traveller on it is seen. Nibbana is, but not the person who enters it. And the first part, the path is, but no traveller on it is seen. You don't do the meditation. You don't travel or walk the path. You disappear. You vanish as much as possible, and then the path is like a superhighway. You can't miss it. The more you do the path, the more you try to meditate, you get so far, but you cannot get that last part, the letting go, which takes you into jhanas, where you, as you usually recognize yourself, disappear, vanish. So, we learn how. You can invite the breath in, but you don't use much force. Personally, I never even invite my breath in anymore. When I relax my body, mind is pretty peaceful, no past, no future. The breath appears by itself. And I often wondered, why was it that the Buddha taught breath meditation as the main meditation method, which I saw in the sutras, always breath meditation. And I think one of the reasons is this, is when everything else disappears, the breath is left. It's the only thing left, which is moving. To understand what I mean, I will give a couple of similes. And the first simile from experience is as a young man before I became a bhikkhu, living in England, there was very, very few opportunities to go on a meditation retreat. So I could not be selective on what tradition I followed. There was a very good retreat center in the Tibetan tradition. I was not at all impressed with the teacher, but the facilities allowed me to meditate. And when you got your eyes closed, no one knows what you're doing inside. So you could be sitting here, following my meditation instructions, and you can be doing all sorts of stuff. You can be practicing vipassana, you can be practicing vajrayana, because you got your eyes closed, and I'm not going to read your mind. So I know that some people are afraid the monks with deep meditation can read your mind. They can read your mind. But honestly, monks, you read one or two people's minds and you don't want to do it again. It's like reading a bad novel. Please excuse me, but most people's minds aren't worth reading. So you don't have to worry about anything. So, I was going to a Zen retreat. And on this Zen retreat, I was asked to meditate with my eyes open, facing a wall, a simple whitewashed wall. And I was given no instructions on what I was supposed to do or why I was supposed to do it. Just sit down, keep your eyes open, and just stare at a wall. Now, it was helpful that I had done enough meditation before to train my mind to be still. So I wasn't looking at the wall, thinking about all the things of the past and the future. I wasn't allowing my mind to wander. My mind was peaceful and just watching the wall. And after 15 minutes, something very strange happened. The wall disappeared. It vanished. My eyes were open. 1 minute there was a wall there. The next minute there was nothing. Now, if you are a monk, a nun, sometimes you have to be courageous. Don't be afraid. Just something strange happens, get to understand it. Investigate it. Find out the causes and effects. So as a monk, a nun, you have to be courageous. So I just stayed there. This is strange, weird. Am I going crazy? Have I somehow lost my sight? But it didn't take me long to understand the causes and effects. When you're paying attention to sight and you're not paying attention to your thoughts, and you're just watching a blank or white wall for about 10 or 15 minutes, the brain turns off. Nothing is happening. So the brain does not register any sight at all. It doesn't see a white wall, it doesn't see a dark wall, it doesn't see anything. The sight is turned off. The easiest simile for you to understand, because monks these days do use computers and tablets. If you have your computer screen open and you don't press anything, after 5 or 10 minutes or 2 minutes, your screen goes blank. It turns off. And that is so similar to what happens to the senses, the six senses. If nothing's happening, it turns off. So what I understood there was, because I wasn't paying attention to my thoughts, I was paying attention to seeing, nothing was moving, nothing was happening, and I understood that stillness leads to disappearance. The wall vanished because I was very still. You may also notice in this room there's a hum. Must be the electricity over there. You can hear it now, but because it's not going to move, it's not going to change, after a while you cannot hear that hum anymore. It vanishes, it turns off because it does not change. Things which don't change vanish. And that's such an important thing to understand. If your body is very comfortable, after a while it vanishes. You cannot feel your body simply because there's nothing going on there. The brain only notices things which change. Things which are constant disappear. You may have the taste of saliva in your mouth. After a while you can't taste it anymore because it's not changing. So this is an important understanding of why we do breath meditation. You're sitting here perfectly still and the body vanishes. Close your eyes. When you first close your eyes, you can see the inside of your eyelids. After a few seconds, it vanishes because nothing's happening. Sounds, it's important when you go into a meditation retreat. It doesn't have to be totally silent, but the sounds have to not change. If there's a sound of somebody, workers over there, like a big bang, that does disturb you. But the constant sound of the rain on the roof hardly disturbs you at all, because it doesn't change, it's the same all the time. And also, it's very important that you eat good food on this retreat, because if you have indigestion, sometimes, because there's a monk sitting in front of you, sometimes the smell suddenly changes. Sometimes they pass wind. So out of compassion for everybody, anyone who has bad digestion and who has a lot of wind coming out of their backside, please sit at the back so not many people are disturbed by your indigestion. Please do not sit at the front, where many people behind you have to suffer. And now, of course, you understand the ones who sit in the back, why they're sitting in the back. So, because nothing changes, it disappears. So, there you are, your body's vanishing, sight's vanishing, sound's vanishing, smell, taste are vanishing. The body only notices things which move. And one of the last things which is moving is your breathing. Even if you didn't try to focus on your breath, you will become aware of your breath, because it's the only thing left to be aware of. I went to Australia, to Perth, 9 years after I became a monk. And the reason I went to Perth, Australia, and the reason I've been stuck there for the last 33 years, is that as a young monk I made a resolution at Adhisthana. I made a resolution I would never ask to go anywhere. I would wait until I was sent there or asked to come back by my teacher, who was Ajahn Chah. So Ajahn Chah would tell me to go to this monastery, he would ask me to come back, and I would always follow his orders. So when a monastery was starting in Australia, Ajahn Chah told me, you go to Australia. So I went to Perth without any argument, even though I was born in London and I liked that part of the world, I liked Asia. He told me to go to Australia, so I went there. 1 month after I went to Australia, Ajahn Chah had a stroke. He could not speak anymore. He was unable to ask me to come back. That is why I've been stuck there ever since. Well, I'm happy there. So, when I first went there was a young man who came to visit myself and the fellow monk who was with me at the time, a monk called Ajahn Jakaro, who eventually disrobed. That's why I became the abbot. I never sought this position. It was that he left me in what we call in Australia, left me in the poo. So I had to make the best of it. It's very nice being second monk. Second monk, you get a lot of privileges, but don't have to do the work. It is like if you go in a convoy, it's always best to be the second car in the convoy, because the first car in the convoy gets all the bugs on the windscreen. So that's what I get. I get all the bugs on the windscreen when everybody else following behind can actually drive freely. So, but when he was still there was 2 monks in Australia for the first year. That's right, first year. And so this gentleman came up and said that he had imported and brought a flotation chamber, otherwise known as sensory deprivation chamber. It was a big plastic tube, something like a coffin, and it was filled with salty water at body temperature. So when you got into that little, almost like a bath with a lid on it, you floated. And it was at room as your body temperature, so you couldn't even really feel the water. It was the same temperature as your body, and you floated. You had no pressure on any part of the body, no pressure on your legs, no pressure on your bottom. It was supposed to be allowing the sense of touch to totally disappear. When they closed the lid, it was light-proof, so dark no light came in, you could not see anything. It was soundproof, so you couldn't hear anything from outside. And they must have had some air supply to make sure that you could always breathe. But the idea was making the most comfortable position for a person, so they had absolutely no aches and pains, no cold, no heat, no sound, nothing to see, to try and subdue all the senses. And when Ajahn Joko went in and I asked him, what was it like inside? He said, yes, I couldn't see anything, I couldn't hear any sounds of people speaking, the body was so comfortable. But he said, the thing which was really disturbing was, you could really hear your breathing, because everything else had been taken away. And I couldn't wait until I tried this, to meditate with no aching knees, no bottom ache, no back problems, just relax in there, not too cold, not too hot. You could adjust the temperature so it's just perfect for you, and to see how deep I can get in samadhi, but I never got my chance. And the reason was that day someone brought the local newspaper to show us a big advertisement. Flotation chamber, the first in Perth, as used by Buddhist monks. Yes, they had tricked us. Just try it out. So it was appearing that we used it for our meditation. Just a trick to sell his product. So I was banned from going, and I was really disappointed. I thought this would be great for meditation. But at least I got his experience. The breath is what's left after everything else disappears. So, for me, relax my body, no breath, no body pain anymore, close my eyes, can't see anything. Just don't pay attention to any of the sound, or try and sit in a reasonably quiet place. Everything disappears, and the last thing left is my breathing. If you are thinking, worrying about the past or the future, or making plans, that's what you're aware of, your thoughts. But if your thoughts are calm and quiet, and your body is comfortable, you can't help but be aware of the breath. It's the only thing left, which is moving. That's one of the reasons why the breath meditation is one of the most popular types of meditation, because it's natural. It happens by itself, even if you make no determination to watch it. So that is the best, to calm the body down, calm the mind down, and then the breath comes to you. Now in Anapanasati, it does say, I have to mention this because sometimes people get confused. In the Anapanasati Sutta, it does say that you watch the long breath going in, a long breath going out, then you watch a short breath going in and a short breath going out. Those are stages 1 and 2. But what happens if your breath is in between? It's not long, it's not short. What are you going to do then? Do you have to deliberately breathe in the long breath first of all? And how long do you have to do that for before you can do the short breath? And you will find that, I think you understand this, you're monks, nuns, you've been meditating long enough. You don't have to do stage 1 and then stage 2. These are alternatives. Either one will do. Or you can do something in between, the middle breath. That's fine as well. It's just the beginning so that you can be aware of your breath and give it something extra to make it a little bit more interesting. Instead of just watching the breath go in, breath go out, see if you can know whether it's long or whether it's short, whether it's in between, whether it's about 2/3 or 1/3 or whatever. Give it something of interest to add on to the experience of the breath. And that is also where you find that people add words to the breathing. They call them like mantras. In Thailand, where I grew up as a monk, they would always use a mantra, Bud Ho, with the breath. Breathing in Bud, breathing out Ho. Bud Ho, Bud Ho, Bud Ho, Bud Ho. Because for someone who was born in that country, the word Buddha would actually have a huge meaning. And it would make the breath attractive. They would have respect for the breath as they would have respect for the Buddha. So they would often do that. That was what Ajahn Chah started off with. Breathing in, Bud, breathing out, To, Bud, Ho, all the time. That is only stage 1 and stage 2. You don't do that all the way through meditation. When I went to Australia, I tried that with Westerners. Bud, Ho, Bud, Ho, Bud, Ho. That never had the same emotional significance for them. So I tried other alternatives. Especially for Western people or Western trained people. The same will go probably to Chinese and Koreans as well. The word I tried next was, as you breathe in, you say to yourself the word shut. As you breathe out, up. Shut up, shut up, shut up. To try and get people to be quiet inside. But that didn't work. So one of the words I found which was helpful, I'm not sure you're monks and nuns, you've probably gone way beyond this, but you can actually teach this to your lay disciples and they find it very helpful. As you breathe in something positive like peace. Or if they're sick, breathe in health. If you're tired, breathe in energy. So you imagine to yourself, say what the word peace means. Don't just say the word, feel its meaning. A little exercise for you here. Peace. 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 If you weren't resisting, you will find that after I said the word, automatically your mind will go towards the meaning of that word. You start to feel some peace, to know what the word is pointing to. And of course you all know that the word is much different from the meaning. So when you say peace, you actually feel peace come in. To make a point at my Bhikkhuni monastery in Perth, Dharmasara monastery in Perth, it's nice to see many nuns here, bhikkhunis. It's one of my, that's one of my things I'm really, really trying hard to re-establish Bhikkhuni Sangha. And even with Venerable Metavihari's help, that when we saw the Prime Minister yesterday, we really hammered him as much as we can hammer a Prime Minister to actually to try if we can get the Bhikkhunis in Sri Lanka recognised. So we're working on it. It takes a bit of a while. You know what the politicians say? Oh, it's to do with the Mahanayakas. Mahanayakas say, no, it's to do with the politicians. Always passing the buck. But we're not letting them get away with that. But anyway, so, we're on your side. It's happening. And so, that in our Bhikkhuni monastery, I have to give them some teachings. But instead of just giving them a talk, I decided to give them a little exercise, an object lesson. I needed to go to the toilet to urinate. So I asked the senior nun, Ayahasapanya, where is the toilet which I can use? Now, I was visiting that place before she even came there. And I brought the place for them. So I know where the toilet was. I said, just over there. See, it says toilet. So I went to the door where it said toilet, and I pretended, I didn't really do it, I pretended to urinate on the door. I said, what are you doing? Well, you told me it's toilet. You pointed to the door. It's even got the name on it, toilet, on the door. Isn't that the toilet? It says so on their toilet. The sign is not the thing. Toilet means it's inside. We all understand that, but really, just to make it more precise, you should put like toilet, like men or women, toilet, and you should put the word inside on top of the door so people don't make the mistake. Toilet inside. But I was just doing that to see this is the idea. The word toilet doesn't mean the place you urinate. It's pointing to something. We all understand the word toilet written on a door doesn't mean you urinate on the door. Or if you have a post there saying toilet that way, like you have here probably, you don't urinate on the post unless you're a dog. You actually go to where that sign is pointing to. So when you say peace, the mind is very well behaved. It actually goes in that direction and you feel peace. You feel peace coming into your body and mind as you're meditating. Breathing in peace. And breathe out, let go. Now you're letting go of the air, so it feels correct as you breathe out to let go. So if you've got any worries, concerns, things which are obsessing you, maybe you got news that your family member is very sick in a foreign country, and how can I go and see them? Even though you're a monk or a nun, you still got duties to your parents. To be able to let go of that. Breathe out, let go. Breathe in peace. Or if you're sick, breathe in health. Your mind is very powerful. And if you can breathe in health with every in-breath for half an hour, you're going to be very healthy. That's one of the things which I love talking with scientists about, the power of the mind over the body. And anyway, so you do this with your breath, breathing in peace, breathing out, let go, as an alternative to stage 1 and stage 2. Or people do the counting. Breathing in 1, breathing out 1, breathing in 2, breathing out 2. There's so many variations to counting. Breathing in a long breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So many variations possible. But it gets very tiring after a while doing the counting. If you're an accountant, fine, you're used to numbers, fine. But there's an old story in the West. There are 3 types of people in the world. Those who can count and those who can't. That is a joke. That should be easy to translate into Sinhala. Very good. So anyway, if you like that, fine. But the whole purpose is so your mind can engage with the breath and not wandering off. Most times you don't need the counting, you don't need breathing in peace, breathing out, let go. You can just watch the breath. And as I mentioned yesterday, as your mindfulness is on the breath and it stays with the breath, just noticing breathing in, breathing out, it's natural that you'll start to see much more of it. You start to see the beginning and the end of the breath. Now, please understand that when you are being mindful and not doing so much, your mind energizes. We waste so much energy, especially mental energy, thinking, complaining, making comments, trying to work it all out. We waste so much energy that our mind becomes very tired and weak, which means our mindfulness is not strong. As you are more peaceful, more of the energy can be saved and goes into the mind rather than going into other places. You literally get more aware and you feel like you are waking up. As you should all know, you all must have studied some Pali, the word Buddha comes from the verb bujati, which means to wake up. And there's a very big significance there, someone who's really woken up. Have you woken up yet? Yes, you're out of bed, but is the mind really powerfully mindful? You will find after very deep meditations, when you open your eyes, wow, now you're woken up. Everything is just so much clearer, brighter, you can see more detail. And so the whole process of anapanasati is always waking up the mind, making it more energized, more brighter, so you can see more. Just like the question on walking meditation, as you walk backwards and forwards, after a while you can feel more of what's going on in the legs as you walk. It's not just left, right, left, right. It's incredible the number of movements of the muscles which are needed for you to lift your leg. I know many people have had a stroke and have had to literally learn how to walk again. And it said it's not an easy thing to do. What you take for granted, you've learned by trial and error as a baby, falling over many times. And now it's just automatic, you don't even think about it. But when you have to learn all over again because you've had a stroke and part of your brain has been destroyed, it's amazing just how much movement has to happen just to move a leg and push it forward. So you become more and more aware, more woken up as you meditate. So it's not just breathing in and breathing out anymore. You really do see the beginnings and end of the breath, the full awareness of the breath. And I know that some monks, they argue, I'm not sure if they're monks here in Sri Lanka, but some monks in Thailand and the West argue that stage 3 of Anapanasati, Sabakayapati Sangvedi, means you're experiencing your whole physical body when you're breathing. And to me that's crazy. In the West we have some words which are a little bit rude. And I'll only mention this word once, and it's the word, you probably heard this word before in English, bullshit. And because people say that monks shouldn't say such rude words, I translate that into Pali. The Pali for that word is gomayang. So even people in Perth, Australia now, they know when some people teach the Buddha's teachings really weirdly. I say, that's gomayang, that's gomayang. So it means it's not true. So from now on, whenever there's some teaching which I think is absolutely ridiculous, not Buddha's teachings, I call it gomayang. So you know what that means now. So the idea that you're watching your body at the third stage of Anapanasati is gomayang. So instead, the body means the body of the breath. Kaya, the word, does not mean physical body all the time. You have manokaya. You know, Dhammakaya, and it's used badly in Thailand, but it does not mean a physical body. And even some people get confused when they read the Buddha's similes for jhana. You know, saturating the whole body with the bliss is one of his similes of first jhana. Just as bath powder in old days, you have to knead it until it's soaked with the moisture. There's no part of that bath powder is unsoaked with the moisture. But that is not a simile for the body. It means the body of experience, the manokaya of the experience of the jhana. It's bliss all the way through. So people do get confused, but it makes no sense at all that you are getting into deep meditation, trying to let go of the senses, and you try to be aware of the body. The body has to vanish so that you can just be watching the breathing. That has many, many, many advantages. When I was meditating with Ajahn Chah in Thailand 40 years ago, it was crazy that he would like to meditate under the trees in the evening between 6 and 8 p.m, a 2-hour meditation in the jungle, which now might sound romantic until you realize how many mosquitoes come out at that time. This was a time when mosquitoes have their dinner. They don't keep 8 precepts, they eat whenever there's any person around. And we were the first Westerners in this part of Thailand. It had never been colonized before. In fact, I do recall going to some villages on alms round, on Bindapata, and I was the first white man had ever been in that village. And so when you had Bindapata this morning, people very reverently, they put food into your bowl. I'm not sure what the Sri Lankan tradition is, but in Thailand you're not supposed to look at the monk. The monk is not supposed to look at the person. They keep their eyes down, they put food in the bowl. But on this day, they'd never seen a white man before, let alone a white monk. So they forgot their tradition, and all of them, as they were putting the food in the bowl, they were looking at me, which meant that so many of those villagers missed my bowl and the food fell outside on the floor. It didn't take long for the dogs to eat it all up. The dogs were very happy that day, but I went hungry. Because they'd never seen a white man before. And it's the same with the mosquitoes in Thailand. Never seen Western food. So they must have told all their friends, hey, there's Western food over here. So I got lots of mosquitoes on me. And Ajahn Chah, maybe only 1 or 2. It's all right for those Thai monks, but we Westerners were covered with mosquito bites. And together with a friend, we used to count, see who got the most. We usually got to about 60 or 70 mosquitoes biting you at one time. And after that, you couldn't count anymore. They were too close together. You can't actually distinguish. So that was torture. I don't know why they did that in Thailand at the time. And every now and again, you'd open your eyes and say, I'm running away, I can't stand this. This is not why I became a monk. And you'd see Ajahn Chah and all the Thai monks sitting there so peacefully. And you thought, Western pride, I'm as good as they are. So I had to close my eyes and continue. I was too proud to run away. But it was also almost unendurable to stay with the mosquitoes. So I had only one choice, to meditate, to let go. And they helped me let go enough so my body vanished and disappeared. I couldn't feel any mosquito bites because I couldn't feel my arm, I couldn't feel my head, I couldn't feel my legs. You go deep inside. And now, as a more senior monk, I say thank you to those mosquitoes for helping me let go of my body and get into deeper meditation. Because if I didn't do that, I'd have suffered so much. So letting go of the body is really important. And you do that through focusing on the breath, and everything else vanishes. So they really helped me. And another interesting thing which I noticed was, if I could do that and let go of my body and go into deep meditation during that 2 hours, when I came out of meditation, I could see no mosquito bites. As a Westerner, if you get bitten by a mosquito, even here in Sri Lanka, you get a little bump which comes up, a little welt comes up. But I had none of that at all. Other monks did. And I thought that must be this samadhi gives you a force field which no mosquito can penetrate. And I thought, wow, this samadhi is very powerful. A supernatural power that mosquitoes, they can't get through your force field. And I thought that's really cool. But later on I found it's just science. Something which you should know if you're in the jungles in Sri Lanka and you want to avoid mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are attracted to carbon dioxide coming out from your pores of your skin. The more high your metabolism is, the more you do and think, the more carbon dioxide comes out from your skin, the more that the mosquitoes can see you. They will go to the people, the monks, who are most worried about mosquitoes. The more anxious you are about contracting Zika or malaria, whatever else, or dengue, whatever else is here, the more anxious you are, the higher your metabolism, more carbon dioxide comes out, the more you are telling the mosquitoes, come here, here I am. But if you're very calm and very peaceful, the amount of carbon dioxide coming out from you is reduced, and the mosquitoes can't find you. You become invisible. And when you're in deep meditation, your metabolism is very, very low. You're not thinking, you're hardly breathing. Everything is just so slow and calm that hardly any carbon dioxide is coming out from your body. That was why the mosquitoes couldn't find me. The signal of something metabolizing, carbon dioxide being emitted, had been taken away. So for goodness sake, if you don't like mosquitoes, please don't worry about them. Calm down. Don't get anxious. Otherwise, the more anxious you are, the more the mosquitoes can find you. So they help me let go of my body. So there you are, just watching the breath coming in, going out, coming in and going out, from the beginning to the end. And it becomes peaceful all by itself. And because it becomes peaceful, you also become energized and happy. The fifth and sixth stage is piti sukha coming up. When I'm going over time, I'm trying to really get into the anapanasati. And I'm going back to one of the pieces of advice which I got from Ajahn Jagaro, the first monk I was with in Australia. He said, Ajahn Brahm, you're a very experienced meditator, and a lot of time I talk about the very deep meditations, the nimittas and the jhanas, which I will do on this retreat. There's plenty of time left. But, he said, what most people need, even monks, is just the foundation, the beginning part. He said, can you please pay more attention, give more talks on how to get to the stage of the joy and the peace coming up in meditation. And what he said was very helpful for me as a teacher, because once your breath becomes very peaceful, and you have it, you're not wandering off anywhere. You can meditate, you can watch your breath for a long period of time. Then it will become happy. The fifth and sixth stages will happen by themselves as you breathe in, just watching this whole body of the breath from beginning to end. Piti and sukha will arise. Your breath becomes delightful, really happy. So much so you're sitting here just so happy, meditating, breathing in, breathing out. Just that much is very satisfying, which will mean there's no effort required. You don't have to force yourself anymore. That you are happy meditating. So much so that your mind looks forward to it. As it says in the suttas many, many times, that the mind, pakandati, leaps towards the meditation. It just doesn't, just like a dog would leap towards the food. Your mind doesn't need to be forced, it just leaps, jumps onto the meditation because it loves it. You get the joy in the meditation, the piti sukha. When happiness comes up in the meditation, please don't chase it away. It's supposed to happen, so you enjoy the meditation. Even my lay followers, I keep on telling them that sometimes your meditation gets so delightful, you don't want to have breakfast or lunch, even when you're on 8 precepts. It's so wonderful that, you're not interested in dinner, or lunch, sorry. Meditation is more delightful. So even just a couple of days ago in Perth, and Veral Nisarano knows this fellow, it's about time he had a decent meditation, which was Ananda, Tilakasiri. And he just missed his breakfast a few days ago. He was just having too much fun in his meditation. Just really breathing in. Oh, it's so delightful, so wonderful. The bell went for breakfast. No, I'm going to meditate instead. The joy of meditation becomes so great that even you will miss the Bindabata. You will miss your lunch, and you don't mind at all. Meditation is more delightful. So if that happens, if in the morning it comes to the breakfast time and you see somebody just sitting here with a big smile on their face, leave them alone. You can eat another time. And even for the midday meal, the lunch meal at 11 o'clock, if somebody's meditating here, just leave them alone. Don't knock them on the shoulder. Come on, lunchtime now. No, meditation is more important. And it's more delightful. So you just do that. You never suffer. The delight in meditation. I'll say more about that tomorrow. So please excuse me for drawing this out. There's 10 days. We're going slowly and meticulously. So there we go. That's just over an hour. I don't want to go too much further. Is that okay? Very good. It's really cute. That's really like, the nod. Okay. What do you do to say no in Sri Lanka? Oh, you really would knock your head very fast. Okay, very good. So very good. So hopefully that was useful for you. There's more coming later on. And this afternoon, 3 o'clock, be some questions and answers. Are we doing interviews yet? Or not yet? Yeah. Usually interviews, I like the first day or two just to be free of interviews, to give people some experience so they can ask questions afterwards. But it's up to you. You can do it this afternoon between 2 and 3. Or whatever. Okay, so please now enjoy the meditation. The talk is now going to be translated. And is it clear enough, the talk? Am I saying too much? Very good. Okay, very good. So those of you who can't understand English, then he's going to translate into Sinhala. For those of you from China who can't understand either English or Sinhala, you're in big trouble. Very good.